art is a way to build community. It's a way to find these common threads that we connect with these places. And I've seen that even in some of the climbers. You know, climbers are like, I want to get to, for example, the top of Denali. That's a pretty concrete goal, but I hear from a lot of folks that like, it is more about the journey. And I think that's a big part of this trip is process, not product. You know, we're here to have the experience, not get hyper-focused on, you know, one end goal. That's a really fun thing. It doesn't always have to be so serious. What is the approach? It's a lot of different things. So in climbing terms, the approach is referring to all the different ways that you might reach a goal on a mountain. So creative approach is the idea that we can do that through the skill sets of art.
And challenge ourselves in an environment that will do nothing but throw us curveballs and see how we respond.
Whether that's pastries and desserts, or film, photography, or in my case, painting, we are approaching our route to this place is through the creative process, and we're using the tools of art to experience this place and share stories about this place. It's looking good. I think we're gonna fly.
I'm not gonna ask the question though.
I think we're gonna fly, I'll say it.
Whoa.
Inspiration? That's the spirit. Take inside?
Yeah, you got it.
All right.
Thank you. There's no good views, it doesn't really matter. Although David's
Ready?
Yeah.
Here we go. Yes and yes.
No words. Absolutely no words.
We're at Denali Base Camp, baby.
I just brought him up. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, basically the moment we arrived at base camp, we had to start setting up camp.
Like, that's awesome. We are currently sitting here on the Kahiltna Glacier in Alaska, in the central Alaska range, so right in the middle of the state. And we have Denali, I guess just to our north. We can't actually see Denali from here, and Sultana to our west.
Here is our sleep tent. We've got our solar panels outside to charge our batteries. This is where we have our breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Have all our pots and pans over here.
Is there any more?
Yeah. I'm gonna take a splash more if there is.
Oh, I see. Good.
I just think it's really brave to put your own money where your mouth is.
We're super lucky to be in the position of like having leveled up our skill sets in the mountains to be able to do this. We have the skills. We know what we want to do.
Developing like rescue skills and outdoor emergency understanding and
integrating that with the art process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah.
we're not just artists that showed up to base camp.
And that's the difference between like an artist residency where like other people would provide the resources.
And here's all the gear and we'll teach you the skills.
Yeah.
Rachel and Klara and I have a really cool Venn diagram of experiences. Klara and I are both guides in Alaska. Rachel and I both work together in Antarctica. And then Klara and Rachel both work in the Arctic. And where all three of us intersect is this passion for creative storytelling as science communicators.
What is really unique about this is like this mixture of different processes, creative processes, and this like integration of outdoor skills with creative processes. Like, and it's an important reason for why we all kind of met in the first place.
Creative approach.
That was really pathetic.
Yeah, wait.
All right.
Touch your tips.
Cheers. Without damaging any equipment. So gentle. Amazing.
What you doing there?
Struggling. Things are off to a great start here at Denali Base Camp. I'm Rose McAdoo, an artist and glacier guide here in Alaska that uses desserts to communicate science and tell larger stories about the environment. 7 years ago, I have a vivid memory of looking outside my Brooklyn bakery that I was working at, and I thought, oh man, it'd be so cool to take big cakes out into really remote areas where I can share them with people that are out in the mountains in those spaces that I so love. I decided to leave the city and head to Antarctica to make desserts in really wildly remote places. I started with the U.S. Antarctic program as a sous chef, did that for 2 years. I now am the field coordinator or assistant manager for one of the NASA research camps down outside of McMurdo Station. And so I put together a collection of cakes that communicated Antarctic science from the 2018-2019 summer season, and then got a job as a glacier guide in Alaska based on my search and rescue experience in Antarctica over the winter. That culmination really brought glaciers to the forefront for me. So this is the first time that I've made my own backcountry pastry kits. Everything is preset and I can essentially just add local snowmelt or glacier water. That's been a really empowering way to preset all of my goals and desserts that I'm making. I am still keeping everything jet boil based, so in a camp stove. Yeah, I really wanted to take the ideas that I've been thinking about for so many years and push them harder, try everything at a higher elevation than I've ever tried, and yeah, see what works. I don't know.
Rose's mating call.
Where's Mountain Boys? So with my work, I want people to feel empowered to like use whatever weird thing that they love or that they're good at to talk about what they care about. And if it's cake, it's cake. If it's painting, it's painting. If it's film, My personal goals for Creative Approach were to push myself harder than I have on any other project. And while I am still beta testing, recipes and ideas, and I'm fully aware that some of them might not work, I wanted to push myself as much as I could and challenge myself to really level up my outdoor cooking setup. Homemade desserts.
I'm making desserts about glacier science.
Yes!
Wait, what? You made what?
You're so welcome.
These are really
Did you
good.
get one?
Yeah.
Okay.
One of the main motivations for me for coming to Denali Base Camp in particular was to actually paint the Moonflower Buttress, which is this gorgeous, sexy hunk of rock that I have been obsessed with for about 10 years now. And I've always just wanted to come paint it in person. There's just nothing that tops being here in person, seeing it. And so that was my big goal coming out here. It's fun to build an environment that, you know, it's like a dream environment because you can do whatever you want with snow and set it up. My name is Klara Maisch. I'm a visual artist from Alaska, and I specialize in painting outside in remote places all over the state. Yeah, I've been painting outside for about 10 or 11 years now. So the outdoors have always been a really big part of my life. I grew up in a family that was very supportive and active outside, and that really grew into an interest in guiding. And so right out of school, I started working as a wilderness guide. I think that that has really fed my desire to share these remote places with people, and guiding is one way that I do that, and making art is the other way that I do that. I love when those two things can come together and feed into each other. Actually, up in the Arctic was the first place I painted outside, and then closely followed by a trip to the Yukon River where I'm sitting in the rain and the mud and just having the time of my life. It was one of those moments where everything just kind of slammed together and I was like, oh, this is what I'm meant to be doing. I'm supposed to paint outside. I think that there definitely is this intersection of skills that's pretty unique out here. We're sitting in a snow studio, a snow pit basically, that I've rigged this whole setup so that it's pretty sturdy. I've got the painting protected from the elements, and all those skills come from learning how to set up a really good camp. And so there is this intersection of different skills coming together to allow me to paint out here. How this all relates back to specifically climate change in Alaska, because the more time you spend in these places, the more time you see that playing out. And so it's sort of this inevitable place that you arrive, like you can't not talk about it in some ways. And so that's become a really important part of my creative practice.
Artiste and artwork.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Wow, this is a shit show.
Now I'm getting that shit show on video.
Excellent.
My name is Rachel Heckerman, and I am a filmmaker whose work revolves around science in mainly Alaska and the polar regions of the world. I have always been caught between the worlds of art and science. I always really wanted to do both. I started my career at a design school in New York City for graphic design, but kind of felt that pull towards science. I worked on this project actually about the Arctic, and I called it Arctic Wild, and it was about all these different Arctic animals. And it was the first time I connected the dots where I was like, oh, this is something that I really care about. And I can make it beautiful, but also translate all this information. And after I had a design job in New York for a couple of years, I quit my job to pursue shooting video on my own. Yeah, by doing some odd jobs, working with wildlife, insects and bugs, or being in Antarctica as a dishwasher, and these weird opportunities came out of it. I had this really awesome opportunity to make a film about scuba divers and sea spider scientists in Antarctica by complete chance. I realized like, oh, I love learning from scientists, and I love incorporating like their stories and all these visuals of the science together. And that's kind of when it made sense to me that I could combine science and art together. And that was actually something that I was really good at. Translating the science in a super understandable and communicative way with like a broader audience. Filming in an outdoor space that is this remote is a lot different than anything that I'm used to. You can't just access anything you need at any given time. Primarily, and the most important thing, is making sure that camera equipment is staying charged. I used a solar-powered bank for the first time, and also it gets really cold at night. Like a little squirrel, I cache all my camera gear into my sleeping bag at night.
Stuff batteries in sleeping bag, stuff insulin in sleeping bag, stuff phone in sleeping bag.
It looks ridiculous, but if it gets really cold, it could stop working. The environments that I'm in requires me to pack lighter, and it's actually easier for me to be as light as possible with all the gear that I have. So just using a gimbal to stabilize shots, using an easy mic and a tripod and my camera, maybe a couple of lenses. It has that boundary. How can I make this work with like so little gear? How can I still tell the story with what I have?
First interview inside and outside art studio. I've never done this before.
Something that I've really wanted to push myself in is being able to work in more extreme and remote environments. As I've grown in my career more and more, I've had more opportunities to work in like super remote places. I want to be able to be sustainable in those environments, and I think building the skill set out here and learning from 2 guides and just getting myself out in these remote locations with more confidence is just making me a better filmmaker. Will I be able to survive in the outdoors tomorrow by myself? Absolutely not, but I'm learning how to get there. I think I just really want to grow from this point, maybe push myself in more extreme conditions, more in the Arctic, more in the Antarctic. Yeah, I think the transition from being in urban New York City to remote polar locations like Antarctica and the Arctic is something I never could have seen for myself.
You're so awesome. I love watching you do what you do.
God damn.
Yeah,
A murdered out.
murdered out cake.
A murdered
Everything's
out
black in it. It's gonna be. There you go, baby girl.
Oh, there's a big one.
That is a big one. Oh, I see it. Where? Middle coming down now.
In our mountaineering boots across camp. To our cook tent. Let's go inside.
But that's what I mean. You guys are doing it good. What is that? I think snow dripped in your. Oh wait, no, this is mine.
I knew that the dynamic between the 3 of us was just gonna be super, super fun.
Excuse me.
And then I go into corpse mode.
Yeah, you really do. You are straight up corpse at night. You got a good like. It is boom creepy. For me, the self-funding and self-backing portion of it was really important because desserts have a place talking about climate change, and I'm showing that I believe in this work. I'm showing that it has value. It also feels really wonderful to be able to back your own opportunities as well.
I never thought I'd wind up working in science communication or being a videographer, but I think something that I've always done is just let go of the idea of what creative process I need to have or like what kind of creative I need to be. Let myself go with the flow.
I am a big skier, and skiing is one of the things that really influences how I read and understand and choose to travel through a landscape, and therefore how I choose to paint a landscape. So I'm very, very much looking at lines of flow. I'm looking at the fall lines, the spines. I'm looking at the snow. That really informs my brushstrokes and how I feel out of place.
There are more and more climbers coming up the hill to see Klara's painting and check out our base camp area, see what Rachel's filming, see my big mess in the kitchen tent. And we've been fielding a lot of questions from climbers who are wondering why put all of these additional challenges onto the artistic practice. And we were talking about it back at camp between the 3 of us, and we realized, well, what's the point of climbing a mountain? You're like trying to get to a summit that you don't know if you'll get to. You are challenging your own skills. And that felt like a really relevant line to draw between what we're trying to do here. We're trying to reach a creative summit for ourselves and push ourselves and test our skills and see how we're able to respond to challenges as creative makers. You bozo. Oh my God, it's terrible. Okay, come on, do it again. Stand close to the camera. Ah, God. Oh my God. I can't see if it hit or not because I closed my eyes.
In the tent this morning, I was feeling pretty low, just like a climb, not knowing if you're going to get to send it on the big objective. And the disappointment of that is real. It does feel like a risk. It feels like a financial risk. It feels like an aesthetic risk. It feels like, why put yourself in this place and go through all this work? What's it for? The weather has been snow and overcast.
Precip coming down, constantly getting water in all the desserts, getting water in Klara's paint, getting water in Rachel's equipment.
I was totally in the tent on, I think it was day 3 after we had everything set up. I had dug the snow studio. We were kind of waiting out the weather, and I was starting to doubt it all. I was really starting to feel like, what do I think I'm doing out here? This is ridiculous. What if it's white out the entire time and I never see moonflower? That has made it really challenging and to paint because I can't actually see what I'm painting. And it's created this situation where I really have had to adjust my expectations.
My ingredients that I'm super used to working with at sea level in dry climate controlled spaces behaves very differently at 7,000 feet in a very wet, moist, cold environment. I put so much planning into this project, more than I ever have before. And that led me into a false trap of thinking that everything would just work perfectly here. Klara reminded me that we specifically flew to a 7,000 foot base camp on a glacier in order to throw ourselves a really intentional curveball and see how we and our art responds to that challenge. And I was like, you're right, that is the point. But it doesn't make it any less frustrating when it's happening. I wasn't planning to serve cake for a couple more days, but there was a plane that got stuck here due to weather rolling in really quickly and a huge backlog of climbers that couldn't get out. Everyone was just hunkered down and pretty bummed.
We were sort of sensing that morale was low in camp. Rose was like, I think it's cake time.
All right. We're gonna go unearth the cakes that have been sitting in this frozen space for 5 days now. There's the top tier. That's the biggest tier. Okay. Morale is pretty low at base camp today because no one can fly and there's a plane stranded here on the airstrip, so figured it was a good day to boost some vibes down there.
Dude!
All right, I'm cutting myself off.
It came out amazing.
I'm ready to do this.
Oh, yo, what's up? It's time.
I'm really into ice cores and I've always wanted to try pouring new cakes, so we're gonna try. Let's see if it works.
Is it there?
Alright, grab it. You got it. There you go. Beast. Heat risk. Oh, good luck.
Thank you.
That came out awesome.
Topper. Love of my life. You knew it, dude. You need that. It just really brought everyone together. Everyone was in their tents, hunkered down when we walked in, and by the end of it, everyone was talking and having a great time. We took a big group selfie. It just really boosted morale, and it was a really special way to bring community together in a spot where people have been through some hard stuff. It was a really special time to pull out a giant cake and share it with a cool community of people.
People stayed out of their tents for hours after that. Everybody was talking to each other. And in that moment, that's, I think, where I met the most people, was in that moment that I wouldn't have met otherwise. And had it not weathered out and had those climbers left, we never would have met them. And yeah, I just feel like it was a really, really beautiful moment.
I'm really inspired by the people who are here and pushing their own limits and challenging themselves on a big scale. I definitely was worried when we came here that we were going to show up, no one was going to take us seriously, and we'd be kind of laughed out. And that has just so not been the case. It has been really cool to be welcomed with open arms. People are super curious. They want to know what we're up to. They're shocked that we're making art here.
It was fun to think that we could come out here to do art and still connect with those climbers and have a social community experience as well.
Holy shit! Wow, that is unbelievably beautiful.
See breaks in the rock in a specific way that allows her to break the shapes up.
And like gauge the size of those cracks from the ground.
I mean, that's why we're here doing it here, right? As opposed to doing it in the studio.
Yeah, you're like making an intersection here. You're enriching that intersection further.
Do that, yeah. You can't manufacture that.
Yeah, dynamic everything is, and like you can go out with expectations, and a lot of what you have to do is pivot.
Yeah.
You know, whether you get out there and the snowpack is unsafe, or maybe you find something better. You know, your plans change, and like you have to just lose a lot of expectations and kind of just like work with the flow of what's happening in real time in front of you.
Yeah. We have this shared experience, and being able to bond over that and like build that understanding and talk about it and decompress in the tent at night has just been one of the biggest joys of this whole trip.
And so all of us have been really quickly and deeply connected on a personal level, an outdoors level, and just a love of making really unique, cool, creative art.
This trip has been really cool because I've got to watch Klara and Rose both like shoot their own video and take their own photos. We're all working together to tell this story. And I think we're all helping each other in our creative processes. I don't know, I think this environment can put a lot of pressure on people, but I think we have actually just have thrived. And I feel like that's just, it proves that we're a really good team, that in the moments where we're stressed out, two of us come flocking over being like, how can I help you, instead of like letting somebody freak out. To have a chance to just create a dream team, to go to a place that we really are excited about and to just have fun, you can't replicate that, and there's no way it would exist without us making it exist for ourselves.
And I think it's really fun to use what you are good at to talk about what you care about. I think it's a really engaging and unexpected way to communicate really exciting and big ideas.
How is making art in the outdoors different than in a kitchen?
Making out. Whoa.
I love making out in wild places.
I do actually love making out in wild places.
How is making art in the outdoors different than in a studio?
Making out with the mountain.
Who's it making out to?
We talk a lot about making out in the tent. Shout out, James. I'll miss you, baby.
Here we have squirrel mode. Rachel in her natural element.
This is actually kind of an outlier in my art practice, in the sense that I'm literally just doing it for me, because it's a big hunk of rock that I find real sexy and I just want to paint it. Like,
whatever does it for you.
There is no deeper message.